Hey guys, welcome back to a new episode of Butts and Mates. I'm your host Julian Slick, and today I'm joined with a very special guest. Please say welcome to DuoStuff.
Hey, what's going on?
I don't know.
That's my intro. I'm never good at introductions.
Oh man, I'm drunk. DuoStuff, would you like to tell people what you do on your channel?
Yeah. So, my name's DuoStuff. I do random video game videos about Mario games that people probably remember, but nobody talks about, and so I just obsess over things like that. Also, I talk about internet stuff occasionally, and that's kind of about it. I like video games. It's really, really complex life.
Yeah. It's so awkward. I just try, how do I forward this conversation? Well, DuoStuff, thank you. Sorry. Oh man, I need to focus. Well, thank you, DuoStuff, for being here on this very small, insignificant channel. But it means a lot.
I mean, you're
seriously.
welcome, but I mean, like, hey, it's fine, everybody's gonna start somewhere.
Yeah, thank you. But we're not here to discuss my, putrid channel. We're here to discuss a very interesting game. We're here to talk about Super Mario 3D World.
Yes, the game that everybody loves now and says it's the greatest, but they sure didn't think that way a couple years ago. It was an interesting experience playing this game at launch. I was like a fresh kid. Not really, I was a teenager, but I was fresh. I was into gaming for the first time. I was like collecting it, and I was obsessed. And I remember watching their E3 presentation. I actually was initially a little disappointed that they did a sequel to 3D World, or 3D Land. But after that, I'm like, oh, you know what? This actually looks really cool. And then for the next several months, I had to hear people complain over and over about how this game had no soul, and how it had no creativity, and how it wasn't a real 3D Mario game, because it wasn't a Galaxy 3, I guess.
That's box!
It's...
Gonna keep that in.
I mean, why not,
I have a sore throat, so...
What was your initial experience with Super Mario 3D World? Like, when did you play it and, all that stuff?
Well, so I actually got scammed by Nintendo by the fact that I was initially gonna buy a Nintendo Switch, and the first day it was released, I came into the shop and all of it was gone. So, I found a Wii U. I watched a trailer and I was sold within a second. And the more of that story is, please look at the reviews. God. But like I bought it. I bought it, and my mom, she let me buy one Mario game because she knew I love Mario, and I chose Super Mario 3D World because why not?
You bought a Wii U when the Switch was out?
Yeah.
Like, I thought, when you mentioned, I thought you bought it like when it came out.
No.
Dude.
I was shit.
Why?
Don't ask me that. Like, I know, okay, I was stupid, okay, I'm sorry. I was 12 years old, okay. If I knew better, I would go back to my past self and say, please don't buy it, okay, just wait a couple of months, and you will get the Switch, and you will play Super Mario Odyssey, because I haven't even done that yet. So, the more of the story, please just read some reviews, okay. It helps.
Well, I can say I bought the Wii U when it was still new. I was one of those people who bought it right after launch, and so I got to experience the thrilling time of waiting for a game to come out for like 6 months because Nintendo released nothing for a while.
Please don't put emphasis on new, okay? that just puts shades on me, man.
Well, I'm just saying, man. I've never heard of somebody actively choosing, like, yeah, I'm gonna buy the old system.
I was stupid
when the new one's out.
I was stupid, okay? Sorry.
Well, there's one positive. You did get to play Super Mario 3D World, which was a freaking fantastic platformer at the time that nobody appreciated at all.
Yeah.
Well, I guess to like give you a good idea of the way people approached it at the time, there were a couple reviewers I remember watching, one of which I regret sincerely because he was a terrible person. But there was this guy who had a channel named The Bit Block, and for like months and months, I think he gave it a good review, and then he would just constantly complain about it after. And then there were a bunch of reviewers that would just kind of continue to bring it up and say, oh, this game has no soul. It's empty. It's boring. And the main thing is people didn't like it because the format of 3D Land, obviously, the whole approach with that game was they were taking a two-dimensional like formula and applying it to a 3D game. But because of that, the scale and the scope that Galaxy or Sunshine, for example, had wasn't there. I didn't really care, though, because as its own platformer, I honestly think they designed it fantastically. And it has so many good things about it, and nowadays people love it. When the Switch port was announced, I expected a bunch of backlash, but everybody is talking about how great it was. That is not how most people felt at the time. I was the exception and loved it since it came out.
Well, I think, like, if to play devil's advocate, I would have to say that people had now seen the new Super Mario Bros. Series, and just how every single one of those games was just copy and paste. And now this new game that's called 3D World is a sequel to 3D Land. People may have thought originally, okay, this is just the same thing over again. But as said, it is a fairly new experience than 3D Land. I would call it even an improvement. If it was portable, I would put it way higher, because that's the thing that made me want to buy the Wii U, because of fun.
Well, fun fact, it's gonna be gonna be portable pretty soon.
Yes.
So
it's gonna be good.
So I guess so the thing that I remember really striking me about that game, like, the level design on a consistent basis is really creative, and like, it's consistently enjoyable across the entire experience. The game goes for this kind of brilliant approach that some platformers don't understand how to design, like a level gimmick, where it's like 3D World is the perfect tutorial to teach all of its mechanics, and then it ramps them up. So a good example is the the flip switch one, where you jump and it flips the platforms from place to place. And the first one you get to use, you're just over this flat platform. If you fall off of it, it doesn't matter. You don't die. There's no cost. And then as the level goes on, it puts you in more and more precarious positions. But because you already dealt with the gimmick before, you already know how it works. And the game just comes up with all these interesting, like, creative ideas to push this very simplistic control scheme and like very simplistic engine in so many different directions that it's kind of wild how good of a job they did with it.
I think people. I mentioned the new Super Mario Bros. Series because what people were often annoyed by was actually the overworld. I can't speak. Overworld. The fact that it was grass, desert, sea, mountains, so on, so on. And I kind of quoting Gaijin, the Lonely Goomba, if you know him.
Yeah, I know who he is.
Yeah, so he made a video about that, Goomba Crisp. I can't speak. So, that's where I kind of get that from. But I think, and he also mentioned kind of how 3D World did the same thing, quote unquote. I don't know if he was kind of making jokes about that. But I think it's drastically different, because in the new Super Mario Bros. Series, all of them are very much, just grass, desert, and all those, every single level. But in Super Mario 3D World, it's just the overworld itself. But actually the levels, I remember almost every single one. Because they're so memorable to play again and again. Maybe it's just because I played a lot of times, but there's instances where I just play some levels again just because I think they're so fun. Especially the boss battles one and those kinds of.
Well, that's the thing. I actually agree with you. And the thing is that the world themes. So yeah, the first world is grass, and a lot of those levels are grass themed. They have some exceptions. They have like the carnival level in the first world. But from the second world onward, the levels start to really change, and so even if the theme of the world is desert or cloud, a lot of the levels in the world are not desert or cloud. They can be whatever they want it to be. Like, I remember the ice world, I think it was, had like a Super Mario Kart themed level, and that was not an ice level at all. And
no.
So the overworld, it's just an aesthetic thing. But the worlds themselves are really creative, especially visually. That game looks gorgeous. Like, people really went after the slightly plasticky look the characters have, and it's like, okay,
really?
But there's so... Oh yeah, people hate that look. The new Super Mario Bros. Series has the same kind of thing, so people associate with that. But the difference is 3D World crafts its environments,
I love it,
significantly more, like, beautifully. One of my favorite examples is in like the special world later on. There's this, like, these rainbow colored tiles that you're running on, and like the whole level is just gorgeous. I think the game just Oh god.
No, no, my favorite example is Bowser, like when he's on his car.
Oh yeah.
He like the graphics are so good in the game. Like I can't even express how much. Like you can see how he glistens a little bit, it brightens up certain parts, and kind of he's sweaty in a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's a bit weird way to pronounce it, sweaty Bowser. Admiring it.
I mean, hey, why not? You know, there's a lot of people who admire Bowser quite a bit, especially after they got that whole crown thing. People liked him a whole lot more.
Bowser. Okay. But also something they do that I enjoy fairly much, that differentiates very much from 3D Land, I believe, is the fact, just a very simple touch, they zoom out the camera. That's something I very much disliked about 3D Land, is that it's so focused in that it made it almost claustrophobic in a way. And they took that away from 3D World. You have a lot more landscape, and it felt way more open free. Almost open world, you can say, in a way. And it made it a lot more enjoyable to watch. Not watch, but play. So that's just a simple touch that I did that already I think makes it so much stand out more than 3D Land. But yeah, again, just level design is also something that brings it way higher.
Yeah, so it's funny when you mention the larger, more open level design, because the game originally was designed around like multiplayer. That was obviously the focus. It was in all the marketing materials and stuff, which, like, as a single player, I thought it was cool that you could even play as different characters. But I spent a lot of time playing multiplayer in this game as well. And what's so like brilliant about it, the game is a multiplayer game. They obviously zoomed the cameras out. They made the levels bigger, so it was easier to play with 4 players. So it's so much more fun than something like New Super Mario Brothers, where the levels can sometimes be so cramped that it's hard to play it with other people. But somehow they managed to design the levels to still be just as enjoyable when you're playing them alone. It doesn't lose anything like certain multiplayer games do. And that's what I find so interesting, because approaching that from a designer's perspective, that's such a difficult thing to do, trying to balance a game for those two different playstyles, but they did it, and it works tremendously well. I've played it both like a ton of times in multiplayer and a ton of times in single player, and I've never felt like while I was playing it alone that the levels were too bloated. I never felt like, oh, this level's too big and so it's taken too long. Like they made it just perfectly so it doesn't ever feel like that. But also the multiplayer element didn't bog down the secrets and stuff. Like there's plenty of stuff to find and do in the levels too. So it's like I'm just kind of shocked they were able to pull that off so well.
It's weird because a lot of the criticism that comes from the Super Mario Bros. Series, sometimes I see the ones that they use against 3D World, and one of those actually are the multiplayers one, but it's like comparing apples to oranges. Like saying that they are equally as bad is just wrong, simply. Like in the new Super Mario Bros. Series, it's gone awful because you can clearly see it's not designed to have multiple people, especially when I hate platforming when you can touch like each other in a way, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I like it if it's a more like a ghost mode. You just do your own thing.
I like it when you could touch people, but I don't like it when that's all you're doing is you're constantly in contact with the other players.
You're fighting of like the first one to jump over a bridge, for example, which happens 100 times in like New Super Mario Bros.
Yeah, and that's the thing is 3D World, because it's 3D, it automatically has an advantage where that's not a problem. There's always ample space, so if you want to play and not bump into somebody constantly, you can, but if you want to carry each other or throw each other off a cliff or whatever, you can still do that easily too.
Yeah.
It's a game that's designed for a lot of different types of playstyles, and it's really difficult to balance that. Like, if you look at almost any series that's had a multiplayer exclusive entry, I don't think you've ever played this, but The Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes was a multiplayer game. It was 3 players, and playing it with people was fun. Like, it was actually really enjoyable, but when you played it alone, because there was so much of a team dynamic, it meant that you were constantly switching between like 3 different still characters, and it gets really boring. Other games like New Super Mario Brothers, it's clearly designed in some cases around the single player, which means that it's so much tougher for the game to work in multiplayer, or vice versa. With New Super Mario Brothers U, I like that game, but its levels are really open sometimes in a bad way, so it just feels empty because they under-design the level design.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult to balance it. And 3D World's one of the only multiplayer games I've seen that actually managed to do that really well. And so it's weird whenever I hear people, like you said, criticize it like it's the same thing, because it's not. Like, it's done so much better. But a lot of those people didn't like 3D World much to begin with.
Well, I haven't played too much multiplayer because I don't have any friends. But but the time I have played with others, I can only remember good things. I never was annoyed by the fact, like in Super Mario Bros. The new series, when like multiplayer is funny. It's funny because it's so bad, like because you keep bumping into each other because of an accident. But in Super Mario 3D, I can't.
In Super Mario 3D World.
Yeah, in Super Mario 3D World, it's a lot more when you kill each other, for example. That's when you do it on purpose. It never happens on accident. I never felt like I did just a game design fault. And the game overall is actually very relaxing. There's no, how do you call it, time urgency, which I think would actually destroy a lot of the multiplayer faction of the game. So I actually say the multiplayer is actually one of the best multiplayer platformer games I've seen at least in a long time.
Yeah, I cannot point to a single game that has pulled it off as well as 3D World has. And it's like that. My first experience playing the game, I beat it with my friends, which, by the way, when you play with people that don't actually know how to play a Mario game, you'd be surprised how quickly you can see the game over screen. And we gamed over multiple times to the point where the final boss fight, it was just me alone. We had no more lives, and if I lost, we'd have to redo the whole level again. And it was like the tense. I was trying to get coins enough to get an extra life, and then Noel, the guy who's bad at the game, he would be the one to spawn in right away and would die 3 seconds after I got it. And so it was just like, it was crazy how fun that first run through was of the game. And I remember the only thing I was bothered by, it wasn't even the game. I was just mad because I wanted to play it through first alone to see the final boss like that. And I didn't. I got that spoiled for me while we were playing together. And so it was like, aw, man.
Well, something we should maybe talk about is maybe the fact of how easy it is. I heard some people say it's quite easy and that makes it bad somehow.
Yeah, so let me be real. The only 3D Mario games that ever get that difficult are 64, and that's because its last couple worlds are terrible. Like Tick-Tock Clock and Rainbow Ride are
I'm gonna say something controversial. Super Mario 64 control is garbage. It's god awful.
Oh, no, I agree with you. It's dated because of the era it came out with. You know.
Well, I hear some people say the control is satisfying. That's just a small rant. Let's not get into it. That's another subject in itself.
Yeah, so 64, part of it's the controls, and then part of it's the last several worlds. They are not designed around that control scheme or around the structure of Mario 64. And then Sunshine is the only other one that's really hard. And to be fair, that game is, like, ridiculous sometimes. I've played it ever since I've grown up, so, like, I'm a master of it. Even still, there are levels in that game that it's a crapshoot on whether I'm actually going to be able to beat it in one try or not. And those are the only difficult, like, 3D Mario games. Galaxy is like, part of what I like about it is it's very relaxing. It never gets too difficult. Galaxy 2 has a couple levels here and there, but they're not until post-game. 3D Land is like a joke, difficulty-wise. And Odyssey, I'd argue, was too easy. 3D World, at least, like, has a bit of bite in its post-game stuff.
Yeah, especially that's what I'm going to say is, like, I believe a simple, easy game can still be enjoyable, I believe. That's all. I believe when it becomes a little bit too easy is, for example, with 3D Land. But overall, that game is pretty boring at best.
I mean, I enjoy it, but...
Yeah. You know. But unlike... If I like 3D World just because of for example, the camera, but also because it feels more colorful and there are better level designs overall. But the thing I enjoy is the fact, actually, the post-production of the game. There's so much to do still, I believe, after the game is finished. Like, you have extra levels that become horrendously difficult. I'm being serious here.
Champions Road. That's
hell
that level. Oh yeah, I remember it took me so many tries to beat that level, and like the first time I played it was with friends, so we could at least respawn people in. But even with that last stretch where you're on the boost pads and you have to get all those things, it is a nightmare. It is like, because all these rings are coming at you, and you are always like a second from death the whole time. It is so ridiculous. But the rest of the game, it's like, yeah, it's easy, but I don't really care. We don't need everything to be the Dark Souls of whatever it is. We can have games that are easy and they're still fun, you know?
I'm getting flashbacks of so many hard games like Cuphead and Super Meat Boy. But that's why I love the game, is because it actually holds a balance between just being relaxing and just having fun to just being freaking hard.
Yeah, it's like, I think they did a decent job, and I'd still say, if we don't count 64 and Sunshine, it's probably still the hardest of the 3D Mario games released after. Especially in multiplayer, where the game actually can get crazy difficult at points. But it's like, I don't know, the criticisms just never made much sense to me, and you'll hear it levied at a lot of different types of games. And those people, I've never understood it, you know?
Well, I'm trying to think of one negative, maybe. I will say that the multiplayer is not the best. It's definitely not top tier. I'm just saying it's probably the best we're going to see in a long time, especially from Nintendo.
Yeah, well, I think they did a great job personally, but like I get what you're saying.
Like I will definitely enjoy it. I definitely enjoy when it's more relaxing. It's just a simple levels, like from level 1 to 8 and all that. But when it gets to like these super hard levels, especially boss battles and time trials, it gets annoying.
So if I was gonna levy a criticism of the game, so I'm gonna be honest, the reason why like Galaxy I prefer it is primarily because, like, as much as I enjoy 3D World for what it is, I kind of miss that scale that some other people miss. And part of it comes from the fact that story in the 3D Land and World games is basically non-existent. It's never really a focus. There's not much to read into. Whereas things like Galaxy... Oh, go ahead.
3D World is actually a criticism of, how society has broken people like, Mario and Luigi into,
Oh my gosh. No, but like, the thing is Galaxy will let you just play the game and focus on that if that's what you like, but it has those little touches, not only the scale of it, but like, something I didn't appreciate as much when I was a kid as I do now is the Rosalina's, Thank you, loud car.
I just heard it. I know you're gonna say something about it.
Yeah, so the thing I really appreciated about it, I didn't appreciate it as a kid, but I appreciate it now, is Rosalina's library. As a kid, it was just like, I don't want to hear this dumb story, but now, as I'm older, I appreciate the extra bits of lore it gives Rosalina as a character.
I freaking enjoyed it because I actually cried when I was younger.
Oh, it's sad. Like, the music paired with, like, the actual story is really depressing. And it's stuff like that I really grew to appreciate about, like, games. For example, I know you haven't played this one, but Sunshine. One of my favorite things about it now is how realized the world is. Every area in that game has all these NPCs that are just going about their day. Sometimes they're affected by the problem of the world, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're just doing whatever they gotta do. And they always have things to say. Their dialogue consistently changes from mission to mission because there's, things... There's like there's an overarching story to each world in that game. And it's stuff like that I really grew to appreciate as I got older. Whereas as a kid, I just liked playing the game, and that's all I saw about it. And I don't think I ever had a game impact me in any significant way story-wise until probably Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. And after that game, I started to really appreciate things slightly more as time would go on. And then although Galaxy, I guess, missed out on that boat still, but it's...
Oh, sorry, no. I'm just, like, when it comes to story of Super Mario, I hear a lot of people say, like, they want something, not complicated, but they just want something that's, like, interesting in the main title series. And the closer we have gotten is Super Mario Galaxy, and not even that is that, fantastic. Because it's still, like, this basic thing, it's just Peach's capture.
Yeah,
wow.
Well, I just appreciate the extra details.
Yeah, that's also what I'm saying. It's like, Yay.
Yeah, and 3D World has basically none of that. The Sprixie Kingdom is an entirely different area from the Mushroom Kingdom, but there's no context for it. What is this place? Why does it exist? Why does it matter that we're in the Sprixie Kingdom beyond just the fact that the Sprixies are captured and not Peach? And the game doesn't really have a lot going in that regard. I also think, and I'm going to be real, some of the bosses are fine, but every time you have to fight Boom Boom or Pom Pom, it's just like, dude, come on. Can we please fight a different boss?
Well, yeah, I think that's probably one I actually had in mind before the podcast, but I forgot to mention it. But it's good you bring it up because I probably wouldn't have talked about it. It's actually, if it's going to give like a criticism that I ain't kind of annoyed, is probably the bosses. That's where I believe the the difficulty should have been bumped up a little bit at least. Maybe in the first time I played it was a little bit difficult, but second time, it's non-existent.
Yeah.
It's not
the
even
only boss that poses. Oh, go ahead.
No, not even the final boss. Like, the only thing that's difficult is that 500-second challenge boss battle, where you go like through, all the different bosses. Boom Boom, the clown. I can't remember their names.
Yeah, they weren't the most memorable characters. I can say that. And that's the thing. Like, 3D World does its actual game elements so well that I'm able to overlook it. But it's hard to argue that it feels like it's missing something. I wouldn't call it soulless because I hate that term. It's such a dumb way to describe a game. Oh, it's soulless. What does that mean? What does that mean? It has a lot of charm. Like, it has a lot of love put into it. It's just not put into like the overarching story or like little details. It's put into making the game more fun. That being said, I would like some more stuff to dig into. At least as like a fan of the series, I like the little stuff. And it sucks that 3D Land and World never really did much of that.
That's true, yeah. Well, I actually, just a side rant, I think there are actually some good fan stories, not fan fictions, fan stories of, Mario, Luigi, and all those kind of stories. I found one on YouTube when they, like, use pixels and it's just them talking. And I actually, it was actually so well written, I actually cried at one point. And it's not even real. That's how much Mario has affected my life, man. It's like a religion almost.
Man, it's like, well, that's the thing is, like, you can tell really interesting stories with these characters. They don't have to just be generic, like, oh, princess is captured, that's all it is. And even when the princess is captured, there's so much room to build on that. And I'm going to bring it up because I always like to bring it up. Paper Mario, the 1,000-Year Door, is the exact example. The overarching narrative, Peach does get kidnapped, not by Bowser, but she gets kidnapped. But the actual place you explore, Rogueport, all the different chapters, there's such a deep amount of lore that you don't have to look into.
No.
But you can. And that's what I like about it. And during this era where 3D World was released, Nintendo was very stringent on their developers, very like forceful, that they couldn't really have many story elements, they couldn't branch out too much. The gameplay was the central focus, and everything outside of that wasn't important. And I think that kind of stuff is why 3D World was received so poorly initially, is because you mentioned it, I think. Yeah, it looks like New Super Mario Brothers, and for the story and all that, it might as well be the same. It's about the same complexity. At the time, there were so many Mario games that felt like that, to the point where even the RPG series started feeling like that. And now, without that having been a problem, because Odyssey came out and was a very creative game, because of that, I think people can appreciate 3D World as its own thing. Now, mind you, I still hear occasional chatter about people saying it's not a real 3D Mario game, but like...
Huh?
What are you talking about?
What do they mean?
Is it not real? Okay, so I'll try to give the argument, but like their arguments don't boil down to much. It's just because it's not fully 3D roamable, like the camera's not behind you, it doesn't count as real 3D.
That's stupid, man. I actually say it's the best 3D game I have. Like, Super Mario Galaxy is good, but it would never work in a it works as how it's presented, If it was like in Super Mario 3D World, it would be garbage. I'm just gonna say that. Like,
Yeah.
You can do 3D games different ways, like... I don't understand that point. Like, there's different ways to do two-player games and 3D play games. That's just a horrible argument. What does that mean? That's the way I kind of like it, is because the limitation almost is that I like just having a set direction. Just finish the level. That's it. I don't need a open world game. That's often what people talk about. Oh, I'll treat Super Mario 64 because it's just, you can do whatever you want. Yeah, but we can also spit how it is, you know, it's fine.
Yeah, which is funny because Galaxy wasn't like that. It was a very linear game when you boil it down. Like,
yeah.
All of its levels are levels, and that's fine too. You see, I appreciate both styles for their own reasons, but that doesn't mean I'm going to dismiss the linear ones because, oh, it has a flagpole at the end, it doesn't count, or, oh, because it doesn't have a camera behind you. I don't agree with that sentiment, but I think the reason why people did it is because
it's plainly wrong. It's not just, you know, just an opinion. It's plainly wrong. It's just stupid.
Yeah, people, I think they just, when they don't like something, they have to try to classify it as something different from what they do like, because it's like, oh, well, then it's not real. It's not a real this. It's not a real that. And it's like, to be fair, I can kind of understand it with certain points. I think when a game gets so far removed from the general concept of previous games that it's like, it's not even comparable, then that argument can be made. But for 3D World, if you replace the flagpole with stars and change the camera to be slightly more movable, it wouldn't be that different from Galaxy format-wise.
No,
you know,
yeah.
Stars are ostensibly they're a flagpole, just that Real Talk is a little cooler in its presentation. I like getting stars a little better than hitting flagpoles, but
yeah.
You know, it's just an argument that people make because they didn't want to consider 3D Land and World part of this majestic set of games, you know, because, oh, they're a little different, so you know, hey, 3D Land isn't quite as good as the other one, so I don't want to count it. And it's like, no, they're all 3D Mario games. They all have their strengths and weaknesses, and, like, I'm going to be real with you. Very controversial opinion here. I vastly prefer Super Mario 3D World to Super Mario Odyssey.
I haven't played this, so I can't speak on that.
The thing is, Odyssey is really good at certain things, but because it's so focused on that free, oh, you can get as many moons as you want, you can do whatever you want, they skimp out on a lot of the platforming challenges. The game never really tests your platforming metal much.
I think it's like, I have met people like, met people. I've seen people have talked about, you know, like Peanut Butter Gamer, who said that he enjoys Super Mario 64 because it kind of lets you do whatever you want. If you want to collect the star, you can collect the star. And that's just something he likes. I like a lot more just being told what to do and then do it. When I get introduced to an open world game, like, that's kind of why I don't really like Legend of Zelda that much, because open world games kind of make me scared. The way that I don't really know what to do. So I just tend to walk around and do nothing, just doing stupid things. Like games like Skate 3. Like, you can do so much in that game, and I didn't even know, and I just went around being an idiot. So that's...
Yeah, well, I get you.
So it's like different preferences. That's what's annoying, is when people can't even just say, in my opinion, I like better to have, you know, open world game than, you know, this level design. That's, I think, kind of fine to say. I mean, I like to have a little bit more of an objective standard, but, you know, they can do whatever they want. Because it is still, you know, it's fans of Mario, and they want to see their you know, depiction of Mario be the best they can see. And if they don't get that, you know, they're going to kill Miyamoto.
Yeah, to be fair, the funny thing is, at least compared to something like Sonic the Hedgehog, Mario is still relatively consistent, because being a fan of the Sonic series is so frustrating. Watching them, instead of like taking a formula that works and continuing it like Nintendo's done with Mario, Sonic just reinvents itself with every single game. And because Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, after that we got 06 and it was too similar in format. Oh, never do an adventure again, we gotta do the Boost formula. But oh no, Boost formula, what if it's not good? Let's do Sonic Lost World and have it like completely different. And we'll have Sonic Boom, it's a completely different type of platformer. And then we're gonna go back to Generations format with Forces, but we're just gonna make it bad. You know, it's... So in Mario, like, I feel like a lot of 3D Mario fans don't realize just how consistently high quality this franchise is. Even in the games that you might not like as much because they're more linear, or you might not like as much because they're a little more open, they're always still very high quality, you know? And 3D World is the best example of like a linear 3D platformer I think I've ever seen, in terms of like at least how to implement this type of level design and constantly bring new ideas to the table, you know?
I want to say something very important. If this ever gets to Nintendo, which it probably never will, I just want to hear this. I want Super Mario music on Spotify. It's a very simple request. You did it in the Super Mario 3D All-Stars. Put all the songs, you have all the songs, and you put it there. Just put it on Spotify. It's not that hard.
I don't know why they don't. You know, also, because you mentioned that, I'm going to bring up 3D World's soundtrack is freaking bomb.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. That's why I'm saying it. Super Mario 3D World is fantastic, and I know exactly the one to prove my point. When you go to Bowser's Kingdom,
oh,
you know what I'm talking about, the saxophone.
Yeah.
Oh man,
World Bowser is fantastic.
When I came to World Bowser the first time, like I think I didn't want to play the level because I just wanted to hear this song finished. So I just listened to it like 5 minutes and just put it in the background. That's how good the music it is when you don't want to play the game.
Dude, I did the same thing when I got there on my single player playthrough. I just sat in that world for a while and listened to the music, and like the whole game is consistently high quality. For example, the Histocrat battle theme, the snake guy, his boss theme is just like crazy good jazz. I love it. Double Cherry Pass has this like super fun athletic theme that's way better than a lot of people give it credit for. The beach water music, I freaking love it. Like, and the Sprawling Savannah level, that music, ugh.
I love the Bowser's Castle's Kingdom.
Oh yeah,
I also, and also just the first level, man. The very first level is just a simple tenor saxophone. It's so good.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, the whole game. It just has like this
my favorite
good soundtrack.
It's Boo Mansion. When
oh yeah,
I had that one on Spotify. I found like a fan made one. I'm getting way too hyped. Sorry.
Yeah. By the way, I'm gonna mention this because this is like a dumb little detail that I know nobody but me cares about. So you know in the Boo Mansions, how when you went outside there'd be this rain, and it had this little effect where the raindrops were on the screen.
No.
You could. So, okay, well, when you're in those levels, like, the raindrops, you can see them in the level, but, like, they're going down the actual TV screen, and you can see it, like, blurring the stuff. Like, it looks like real rain, and it is so cool. I freaking, like, the first time I saw that, it blew my mind. I was like, dude, this is what HD visuals can look like. Oh my...
People say this game doesn't look good. Please unsubscribe.
Well, now it looks great, of course. Everybody loves it now. Not when it came out, though.
Oh, man. Yeah, I love this game. I actually just want to buy the Switch just to play this game again. Not even Super Mario
Odyssey. I'm buying it when it comes out. I can't wait. And the thing is, they're actually they're not only are they adding online multiplayer, which is crazy, but they've sped the game up. They've like improved how the game flows, because one thing I didn't like about 3D World is like the way the speed mechanic works, where you have to run for a bit before you get to full speed. They got rid of that. The characters move like a lot faster, just automatically.
Okay, yeah.
And it's like, the game just looks like it's gonna flow even better than Dari did. And also the game's adding new content, which to be fair, we gotta wait and see what that actually amounts to. But honestly, any extra levels in this game, like, ugh.
Like, I just want to say something, is that the favorite thing about Super Mario 3D World is the fact that how concise the control is, the gameplay. Like, it's kind of hard to say, but I often, when I talk about platforming, because, you know, Super Mario is a platformer, a bad platform, in my opinion, is a game that has heavy control. I mentioned this in one of my videos. So, for example, Super Mario Bros. 3 is a garbage platformer. And the reason why is because it's so hard to control him, basically. That's like the short answer, the short and stick. He is heavy. You know when he's going to land. Every hitbox you get close to, well, you can pretty much be scared that he maybe just fling off the screen and die. So what I often like, a very simple thing, is just to have very light control of your character. It's very hard to explain because I'm not a game designer. But like my favorite is definitely Super Mario 3D World of all the platformers, even than Galaxy. All the Super Mario Bros. That's my favorite of the whole. It feels so good control. It was so good control that I actually wanted to speedrun the game for a while, and I actually practiced speedrunning.
Dude, nice. But I'm gonna mention, firstly, that Super Mario Bros. 3 comment I know is gonna be a little divisive, because there's a lot of people who love that game. I like it, but I can agree with the controls.
Mario
it's a
Bros.
Funky.
3 sucks. New video coming out.
Yeah. Yeah, but what you mentioned about that, like the platform controls, with Mario especially, I do think that he should always control lighter because the character is made and looks like he should be light. Now, I don't think that there's anything wrong with the heavy platform like Donkey Kong, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze and Returns. I think those games control perfectly because a giant gorilla should feel heavy. Like, that's the point, you know? He's a big gorilla. He should, you know, have a bit of weight to him when he jumps. With Mario, though, I don't like it when it has that weight, and 3D World, like, has no issues with that. It's, like, the perfect controls, and even better is that if you don't like how Mario controls, then there are, 3, but 4 other characters you can play as. Yeah, which, like, I usually stick to Luigi or Peach, personally, just because I think they're the most fun. Rosalina is a cool little extra, but honestly, playing as her in that game feels kind of awkward.
Oh, I kind of like Rosalina in that game. I don't know why.
I think it just frustrates me how when she gets a fire flower or something, she can't use the spin anymore.
Oh yeah, okay, that's true. Okay, but I gotta give some love to my boy Toad. My boy.
I almost never pick him.
I love Toad, man. I don't know why. I just like the extra speed, just because, you know, gotta speed up again.
I get ya. I guess, like, I'm a Luigi guy. He's always been my favorite Mario character.
Yeah, he's also my
will always
favorite,
pick
but,
him.
you know, it's sad when Toad never gets any love.
Yeah, well, to be fair, even in my videos, I've made it pretty apparent I don't think much of Toad. You know,
oh, my boy.
You know, but it's like, also, I guess since we haven't mentioned this, even though this is the central, like, thematic identity of the game that they push in all the marketing. So yeah, there's a cat suit in this game, and it's, like, actually a really, really smart power-up in terms of how it's implemented into level design.
Like, when I show, like, my brother, he always ridiculed me a little bit. So when he, like, first time saw the game and he saw Mario in a cat suit, yeah, he thought I was crazy. So, like, when we played it together, it was actually, you know, we were always, like, trying to find out who was the first one to get the cat suit and actually just mess around with it, because it's so good. If that game didn't have the cat suit, I don't think I would ever try to speedrun it. Like, the game is centered around it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, the cat suit works really well as like an evolution of Mario's moveset because it allows him to do things that wouldn't normally be feasible. Like the whole vertical climbing thing means that they can design levels to have a bunch of extra secrets that they wouldn't have if they didn't have it. And then also, like, the other power-ups in the game are also a lot of fun. The double cherry is like a really cool power-up that I'm super sad they don't use ever again.
Oh.
And, you know, the returning power-ups are all pretty solid, so it's like, the cat suit, though, especially, people really wrote it off like, it's just the game's power-up gimmick, who cares? But it's like, dude, no, this is actually a really interesting type of power-up.
I will say it's on the level on the creativity on Mario Odyssey's, you know, capturing enemies. That's how good I think it is. And I know I haven't played the game. I haven't played... shut up. Not you, you know, the audience. Just, okay, it's cool. I like Mario and Odyssey and all that, you know, but cat suit is better.
Yeah, well, like, I go, like, that's the thing is, it is just that well-designed of a power-up mechanically that I agree with you. I do think it adds a lot to the game, very similar to the capture mechanic, though I will say I think the capture mechanic is a little more complex just because there's so many different types of captures that you can do.
Yeah, that's true.
It just sucks that some of the captures aren't that fun to control.
Well, I think the capture ability is more creative, but when I'm talking about just satisfying control, I love the cat suit. Like, the movement never feels wonky. It never feels like when I make a mistake, it's the game's fault. It's always my mistake when I fall off a cliff because I misplaced a jump. Because you can move so fast that you just become reckless and you abuse the system that you just fall off a cliff and you're like, okay, maybe I should relax.
Yeah. That's the same thing that happens to me. Like, every time I die in that game, it's usually because I get so into using the physics and abusing them to do things. I'll overcommit sometimes and just fall off the cliff and be like, well, you know what? I have nobody to blame but myself for that. I guess we're playing through the level with small Mario.
Well, yeah, something else I'll enjoy is that you can go into levels with certain power-ups. You're never forced to actually have the fireballs, power up when you get that in the second level. You can just play the whole game in a catsuit, for example, which I love for the fact that they do that.
Yeah, that's like, and to be fair, they have to design the game around that, obviously, because every level needs to be completable as small Mario, otherwise it'd be pretty unfair. But that's one of the things I like about this power-up system, is that there's always a bunch of different ways to approach each level, and that combined with the different characters always makes it feel like it has a lot more replayability than certain games can have that are like the linear 3D platformers. They don't have as much variety as this one can.
Underrated power-up is definitely also the boomerang suit.
Oh yeah, it's funny. 3D Land, I think it actually kind of sucks because the range is so limited. But in 3D World, they up the range so much, and it becomes one of the best power-ups in the game.
Ooh, I was kind of surprised when they chose to pick Super Mario 3D World as, another option in Super Mario Maker 2, to place blocks. I was kind of surprised in the beginning, but thinking about it, that's how good I think Nintendo even realized it is.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, it was always just conceptually so good, and the fact that it works in 2D as well is quite impressive to me, that they managed to make it feel like just as good in 2D. But that reminds me of something that I want to bring up, not because I found it that particularly interesting in 3D World, but because of the repercussions of what has happened. So 3D World introduces these levels called Captain Toad levels. And they're these little fun, haha, it's a little puzzle challenge. And, they're fine, but they're not that interesting in 3D World. But they made an entire game out of it. Yeah, so they made an entire game out of Captain Toad. And the reason why I say I don't like them in 3D World as much is because the ones in Captain Toad, the game, the Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, are really complex and interesting.
Oh, okay.
The thing is, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, the Wii U release, the ending of the game it implies that it's a prequel to Super Mario 3D World. He ends up falling into one of the clear pipes and ends up in, the Sprixie Kingdom. But in the Switch port of Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, instead, it's a prequel to Odyssey, and 3D World is not mentioned at all. So because of this, Captain Toad has essentially made a split in the Mario timeline that nobody really knows how to approach.
M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, it's such a weird decision, and that's actually why I thought they weren't going to re-release 3D World, because they just ignored its existence in Captain Toad in its initial release. I was like,
I don't think they care at all about Mario's story anymore, Nintendo.
Yeah, they probably don't. I guess I'm just weird, and I like to have a general idea of oh, how does this go? And if it was a timeline, can we connect certain games? And it's for example, I don't know why I'm always obsessed with this, but the Luigi's Mansion games, they're actually canon to the main series, because Super Mario Sunshine, Flood, and the paintbrush were invented by Professor Egad, a character exclusive to the Luigi's Mansion games in terms of the main series canon games. But what's cool about Egad is that him making Luigi's Mansion canon also implies that theoretically the Mario and Luigi RPGs could be canon as well, because he's also present in them. And so it's stuff like that I like, but having Captain Toad have two different endings is really confusing, and it's well, okay, is one Captain Toad Treasure Tracker non-canon? Which one is it? You know?
Well, do you know Game Theory?
Yes, I do know Game Theory.
Yeah. So he made when I was younger. I still watch him. But when I was younger, I was so obsessed with Mario. It was a decree that I needed explanation to what the timeline was. So I watched this video on the timeline of a Mario series, and now I'm just kind of Nintendo don't care. Nintendo don't have a story for Mario, and I'm sad because I want a story for Mario. He's cool.
Yeah, by the way, the fun fact, because you mentioned that, that theory, if I remember correctly, is the one where it says that Jumpman and Mario are not the same characters.
Yeah, it's that.
Which, because of that, it disproves a whole, section of his Mario as a psychopath theory. if that's the case. But also, to be fair, that theory is not it's not feasible. A lot of his evidence is from non-canon side games. Like Mario Tennis is not canon. Okay, it is not a canon entry.
But Luigi's still cooler, Well, hey, what about Wii, New Super Mario Bros. Wii, when they go into the air balloon and Luigi holds open the door for Peach and Mario. He tries to go in, but they already fly away. Huh?
Yeah. It always makes me sad.
He got cocked. I'm not gonna leave that in.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But yeah, so I don't know. It's you should leave it in. Why not? Ugh, man. But yeah, so just I don't know. It's one of those things where I realize Nintendo doesn't care. But because I'm such a weirdo about Mario games, because I'm so hyper fixated on small things that don't matter, it's stuff like the Captain Toad discrepancy that bothers me.
No,
I will say
I get it. Hey, I've been there.
It's cool that they introduced them in 3D World though, because at the time when it was released, they were actually really neat. It was a surprise little extra bonus that was oh, cool. They were fun little levels. They got you some extra green stars if you were weird and weren't 100%ing the game as you went like I was, because finding the green stars and the stamps are really fun.
Yeah.
There's something so satisfying about it, but...
Yeah, actually, when the people they talk about Super Mario 64 and why it's their favorite, they often mention, well, you can pick the stars, the stars you want to. And it's well, you can do the same thing in 3D World. I think it's even cooler because you don't have to say, I just need to pick 1 star right now. You can say I could pick 3 stars if I want to, or 2, or 1, or 0. Who cares?
To be fair, those are different stars, but
yeah. I'm just saying that my point is that I don't really get what people are specifically trying to say.
Yeah. Well, it's I agree though. It's that's the thing. I appreciate 64 as well, and
yeah.
I can like both games for different reasons. I like the fact that there are 2 different styles, because the thing is that the free roaming 3D Mario games always have linear levels in them. There's always an aspect of the 3D, the more linear design in the free roaming ones, and also in the more linearly designed ones, they'll have bigger open levels and things that have a little more depth to them. So there's always a bit of a link between them anyways, that I feel like people just... It's weird how for Odyssey it's a plus that has a bunch of linear levels, and then 3D World it was a minus at the time that it was all linear. But I kind of prefer a linear level if it's designed really well.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know.
I think it also makes
World...
it. I also just think it makes it more memorable. A more simple, a simple level. If that makes sense. A big world is something I rarely remember, especially in games like Super Mario 64. Not 64. Sorry. Places like big overworlds like Hollow Knight, for example. 64 and 3D Worlds are basically the same, and I think in level design.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I actually remember 64 and Sunshine's worlds a lot better typically than I do something from 3D Land or 3D World, but the mechanics I remember really strong from games like 3D World and 3D Land, because it's the mechanics themselves that stick out more than the overall world design, and that's because that's the focus. It's meant to be enjoyed more as just a game than a game and an experience.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also just when we talk about how the star system is basically the same in Super Mario 64 and 3D was not because we're trying to shade the Super Mario 64. The points that people just bring up when they're trying to mention something bad about 3D World are just sometimes nonsense. They don't make any sense.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it.
I love 64. Of course I do. I even put it in one of my favorite video games. Maybe I will change that now, but... So you shouldn't take it as we're just being haters. No, we're just being real.
Well, the funny thing is I haven't even been that critical of 64, because, I genuinely enjoy every 3D Mario game, but I like them because some of them have individual elements that are really strong.
Yeah.
Because if they were all the same game over and over, it's hard to make them stick out at that point. You know, they all feel relatively the same. Whereas, like, I can sit here and be like, yeah, I love Sunshine because I think its overworlds are really meticulously crafted and really interesting, and its overall thematic identity, the vacation resort destination, was super interesting, and they made the world feel believable. But I love 3D World because its level design is consistently super high quality, and they're always coming up with new ideas that consistently make the overall adventure feel dynamic. It's always really fun.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the strength of the series, is that every game has something that it does better than the rest of them, and they all have a different focus, but they still retain the core identity that you can play them, and it's not like they're entirely different games, you know?
Yeah. I think maybe we have discussed all the points we may have wanted to. I could still go on, really, but I think we maybe should end it here.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess one more thing I want to mention. Last thing.
Yeah.
The credits sequence of the game, that track that plays, is a straight banger, and is like one of the best credit sequence of any of the 3D Mario games.
Nintendo just released the music, man. It's not that hard. You have it a file somewhere, Nintendo. Just search music 3D World in your laptop and it will probably come up. For the love of everyone.
Do it for every soundtrack, not just 3D Mario games.
No. Every single one. If you can't let fans make games, at least let us hear your music. Your own music, man.
If Nintendo's listening to this for some reason, as you said, Nintendo, Paper Mario, make it like Thousand Year Door again, please.
we should make this video viral, man. just that clip.
Yes, freaking who's the current president? Furukawa. You know, the Japanese guy who's probably not going to even understand half of what we're saying because it's like complete nonsense. Like, who cares about Captain Toad? Yes, you, the corporate Nintendo guy that's definitely watching this podcast, do these things.
Yeah, just the one guy. He doesn't even understand why he's watching it. He can't understand anything. Well, these guys, okay. Okay, let's try saying something Japanese. Ni hao.
That is not Japanese.
That's Chinese. I know, it's a joke. Maybe we should end it.
It's a good idea.
It was a good discussion, and the fact that we could even go longer just shows that this game is a banger, and you should play it, man. Everyone that hasn't played it, buy a Switch, not a Wii U. Buy a Switch and play the sucker, okay? It's a good game.
Yes, it is amazing, and you will definitely like it as long as you don't go in expecting it to be like Super Mario Sunshine or something for some reason.
I think every Super Mario game should be, different. So, and I walk into a Super Mario game every time different, in a different perspective. So I think people know to look for a 3D platformer, colorful adventure. I'm just not very creative. Your words like you, man.
I mean, to be fair, the only reason why I'm talking like this is because the videos I've been scripting for the last chunk of time. The project I'm working on requires me to be slightly more eloquent than I normally am.
You're Shakespeare, man, this podcast.
I'm not.
I sound drunk in this whole podcast. So much 3D World. Very good. Wait. So yeah, I don't know what to end this.
I know how to end this. Subscribe to DuoStuff.
Yes. Okay, yeah. So, if you guys haven't subscribed to DuoStuff, then you're missing out. He has bangers. Like, he gives so much love to DS, which is my childhood, that it brings me hope to the future of our generation. I don't even know which age you're in, so I don't know.
The funny thing is, like, I'm slightly older than you, but I'm like a late Gen Z, so like I still am in Gen Z, and I grew up with a GameCube. Is the only difference is I played that before I got to play the DS.
Okay, we could call you a Gen K. That's a new one.
Oh, all right. It's good to have a classification, you know.
This podcast just become nonsense. I think it's actually hard to do an intro and outro than actually, talking about the subject we're here to talk about.
Yeah, well, intros and outros are hard.
Well, guys, subscribe to DuoStuff, and if you have seen a lot of my videos, why not just subscribe? You know, it's right down there in that corner. This is so awkward, man. Well, thank you guys for joining.
This is just how you have to end a podcast.
Thank you guys for watching Button Mates Part 3, and thank you DuoStuff for being on here, man. It means
you're
a lot.
welcome. It was pretty cool to talk about Super Mario 3D World, the Wii U game, well before anybody's gonna be talking about the Switch game yet.
So I'll see you guys sometime because I don't have a schedule. So bye bye.
See ya.